on this side.
Okay.
As soon as Kevin's ready.
Good, got it, stop.
Good to go.
Good to go. All right. Before we start the meeting for May 7th, 2020, in response to COVID-19, the town board continues to use a hybrid model for our town board meetings. The adaptive practice came from the advice of the Association of Towns and in consultation with our town attorney. We did this in the interest of public health. What we did is we logged on at 5:30, enabling everybody to get into the virtual room. And at this point, I will call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Can I get a roll call?
Michael Cashman.
Present.
Thomas Wood.
Present in the yard.
Meg LaFave.
Here.
Barbara Hebert.
Present in the garage.
Charles Costick.
Here.
James Coffey.
Here.
And myself.
Okay. Resolution 74, approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Resolved that the minutes of April 2nd, 2020 be approved and the reading of the minutes be dispensed with.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Wood from the yard. Is there a second?
Second.
LaFave from the dining room / library, of course. A well-learned individual. Okay. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor, please say aye.
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 It does carry. Anything for public comment? Okay. I do want to provide a little bit of an update as to where we stand on a couple of things, and if you can humor me for a moment. Can you all see the screen that
Yes.
says phased reopening for business?
Yes, Mike.
Yes.
Okay, so a couple of just high notes of this. Governor Cuomo has identified regional requirements for phased reopening. There is a basically 11-point plan. The first one includes the CDC guidelines. Based on the CDC's recommendations, once the region experiences a 14-day decline in the hospitalization rate, they may begin a phased reopening. In addition to that, priority industries for reopening. Businesses in each region will reopen in phases. Phases will include restarting construction, manufacturing functions with low risk. Phase 2 will open certain industries based on priority and risk levels. Businesses considered more essential and inherent low risk of infection in the workplace, and the customers will be prioritized, followed by their businesses considered less essential and those that present higher risk of infection spread. Regions must not open attractions or businesses that would draw a large number of visitors from outside the local area. Business precautions. Each business and industry must have a plan to protect employees and consumers, make the physical workspace safer, and implement processes that lower risk of infection in the business. 4, building healthcare capacity. To maintain the phased reopening, each region must have at least 30% of hospital beds and ICU beds available after elective surgery resumes. 5, testing regime. Regions must implement a testing regime that prioritizes symptomatic persons and individuals who came into contact with a symptomatic person and conducts frequent tests of the frontline and essential workers. The region must maintain appropriate number of testing sites to accommodate its population, must fully advertise where and how one can get tested, and the region must also use the collective data to track and trace the spread of the virus. 6, a tracing system. There must be at least 30 contact tracers for every 100,000 people. The region must also monitor the regional infection rate throughout the reopening plan. 7, isolation facilities. Regions must present plans to have rooms available for people who test positive for COVID-19 and cannot self-isolate. 8, regional coordination. Regions must coordinate the reopening of schools, transportation systems, testing and tracing with other surrounding regions. 9, reimagining telemedicine. 10, reimagining teleeducation. And 11, regional control rooms. Each region must monitor business and regional indicators during the phased reopening, including hospital capacity, rate of infection, and PPE burn rate. Actually, there's a 12th, I apologize. Protect and respect essential workers. The region must continue to ensure the protections are in place for essential workers. The slide that I have put up here for you is there is an additional overlay here that is for the phased reopening in the different sectors. Well, let's call it that for lack of better terms. The first one relates to the May 15th date that we're coming up on, so manufacturing, wholesale supply, select retail, curbside pickup. So that is rapidly occurring. They anticipate that it will be approximately a 14-day lag between each phase, approximately, because that's where they may see some of the change and influence of what a reopening may look like. In addition to that, I will use an example of administrative support in phase 2. There are some of these headers that really haven't been defined fully yet, so I can't tell you where some of the businesses and other activities fall into. We are waiting for that. In very similar fashion, what ESD did when they were looking at what essential businesses were permitted to stay open, they were doing a lot of back and forth and conferencing and speaking with state council. Phase 3, restaurant and food services, there is some questions about, does that mean in the business itself, or does that mean seasonal outdoor? See what I mean? Like there's more questions than there are answers right now. And then phase 4, arts, entertainment, recreation, and education. Some of these may also be pushed back further if we get into phase 1, phase 2, or even phase 3, and that we started to see a spike or numbers become elevated. So there's a lot going on. From the local level, I will tell you that I do have a seat on the Clinton County Forward Task Force, which is the task force that is working for our county in coordination with the larger region to have these conversations. I also would remind the council and the public at large that Clinton County could be at a fairly high success rate in a number of areas, but we're in coordination with the region. The region that we obviously have been identified for is the North Country. So if you can humor me for just a moment, I want to share another screen. It takes you folks away for a minute, that's why I'm not sure if you're able to see it, so just give me one moment.
Like you said, the construction was under the phase 1. Any construction?
Well, there's still going to be periods of definitions, Tom. We're still looking for some of that guidance.
Some of that has already started, hasn't it, Michael?
Yes, there. I don't know if this is going to share the second one. Let's try it one more time. Yeah, it's not going to share it. I'll direct you to the governor's website. There's a rubric or a matrix of sort that has all the different categories, a dashboard of sorts. We have met a number of the categories already. One of the things that we have actually, for Clinton County, and I'm not speaking for the North Country, but for Clinton County, we have a number of tracers, and that's been something that we've done a really, really good job in Clinton County for. Even the individuals that have had become infected, they have not been in contact with as many people as other regions. One might be density, the other is some of the individuals that did go out into the public were trying to social distance, and they just weren't successful still, so they still did come in contact with some individuals. So there has been a team of tracers. One of the things that every region is really struggling with right now is testing. That is going to be the high level, the bar by which everyone needs to meet. I can't talk too much about where we're at with that. It's an ongoing developing item. It's something that's being very much driven through the Clinton County Health Department, very much driven through CBPH. and the various medical providers within the region. We are starting to see, the one thing that I will note is that we are starting to see more medical providers that are doing testing. So even like Wellness Now, which is kind of like that fast track, medical provider, they're starting to get some of those test kits. I'm not sure if those test results are going to be shared with the health department. I anticipate that they would be. I think that's part of the, their allowances for doing it. I just don't want to speak out of turn and provide you misinformation, okay? So as we get more information, I will continue to try to provide you folks an update where we're at regarding staffing, etc. I am going to host a Zoom meeting for our employees next week, like an all-hands meeting, but virtual, just to give them an update, where we are, what we're experiencing, what we're expecting. The thing that I would anticipate that we are going to have to do as an organization for our own employees is that we are going to have to make a number of modifications, possibly with hours, possibly with physical space, to provide for protection and social distancing, and that may come down from some of the guidelines of CDC, New York Health Department, etc. So I'm kind of already thinking about some of those things that are ahead. As things develop, I'll certainly share it with you. So, we all don't know what we don't know, and that's probably one of the bigger question marks at this point. Any questions? I know we don't usually kind of bounce around during a general meeting, but I did wanted to give you an update before we went too far into our regular meeting. Okay, we'll get back into it. Resolution number 75, abstract 5A-20.
Resolved that the abstract of audited claims number 5A-20, 607 through 666, for $82,538.90. Abstract 4A-20, 98 through 111, prepays the amount of $397,339.17 be received as reviewed by the audit committee, and the supervisors hereby authorized to pay said abstract.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Hebert, Costick, any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. So does carry. Thank you very much. Just trying to stay organized. You can humor me for a moment. Okay. Resolution 76, honoring the memory of Terry B. Saul.
Whereas the town of Plattsburgh Planning Board lost a valued member on April 12, 2020 with the death of Terry B. Saw, and whereas the town as a whole lost a knowledgeable, skilled, and dedicated community member, and whereas Terry B. Saw was born and raised in Plattsburgh, and this is where he chose to raise his loving family, build careers, and eventually his own general contracting business, B. Saw Builders, T&S Builders, and whereas Terry was active with the Boy Scouts for many years, was a member of the Knights of Columbus 3rd and 4th degree, and was an active member of St. Peter's Church, and a 30-plus years as a planning board member, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Plattsburgh Town Board recognize the contributions of Terry B. Saw over the course of his tenure on the planning board and honors his memory, and be it further resolved that the Town of Plattsburgh Town Board extends its sincerest condolences to his family.
Traditionally, when we have done honorary resolutions as such, we have split a motion of first and seconds are in kind. For the record, though, I'd like a motion. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Wood, is there a second?
Second.
Meg? And I just want to thank Meg for putting that together. I appreciate you doing the research and putting those touching words together. Thank you very much.
It looks like there maybe was a small change in the fourth whereas. I think there's a letter.
I'll double back with you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you very much. At this point, I do want to invite Meg and Chuck as members of the Recreation Committee. because of the ongoing dynamics of things that are going on, we wanted to have a discussion related to some recreation material, so I will volley it off to you folks to lead some of that discussion.
We had a really productive committee meeting with Mel and Aaron last week, and they provided a comprehensive list of the park plan for 2020, obviously acknowledging that things are going to be very different this year. Chuck, do you want to go over the details of that list?
Yeah, I can, Meg. Like Mike said, Mel and Aaron put together a very detailed, review throughout just about all the options table, because probably one of the most impacted areas is going to be parks and recreation. The first part of the plan was basically to phase in some of the areas within the parks that are going to be able to be used safely, through safe distancing, etc. That would include reopening the disc golf course, potentially the tennis courts. That pretty much will coincide, hopefully, with the May 15th. The tennis courts may be a little bit longer. We just need to see, what the guidance that comes down from the various agencies. I would put in, along with that, Mel is working with Clinton County Health on some sign packages, signs that can be used in the parks, also signs specific to disc golf, as well as signs specific to the tennis courts. Also phased in with that reopening, again, the timing will be dependent upon where we look, with that May 15th, what we feel the guidance is. Is the potential reopening the dog park. Moving forward within the parks, playground swings, basketball courts would still be closed. And that's, again, based on guidance from CDC. And I was working in conjunction with County Health. Lapeer Lane, will keep the trail open. The play and exercise areas will remain closed. One of the things that we discussed at length as we get closer, and this is probably going to be one of the later phases with the actual park buildings. Obviously, there's going to be concerns with those going forward. They're going to work on scheduling details there, make sure that when a building's scheduled, it's going to be able to be cleaned before it's scheduled again. So in the case of the weekend, there may only be one rental on the weekend for a particular building. Again, just to make sure that we can get buildings and grounds folks in there to make sure the buildings are clean. In the interim, they brought up the fact that we have a handful of parks and a couple we have discussed previously that aren't utilized to a great extent. Guy Cedar up on Wallace Hill, South Plattsburgh, that's the one right up by Airborne, and West Plattsburgh, that's the one right by the Legion in West Plattsburgh. We have the opportunity to potentially gate those off. Each one of those parks has a gate and can be gated off. And what that would do, it would pull buildings and grounds folks out of those parks. I don't think we'd be able to completely abandon mowing and basic maintenance efforts. I think we could reduce the maintenance efforts there. The buildings wouldn't get used. And as we start to get back into better weather, less parks that we're going to have to keep track of, less folks we're going to have to keep track of, so that Mel and Aaron, when they're out and about looking at the parks, there's going to be 3 less parks we believe that they have to go look at. So I think we have the opportunity to do that and potentially gate those down. I know we've been in a bit of a discussion with Guy Cedar in South Plattsburgh about potentially, maybe doing a complete shutdown there, but we'll have to see how that looks in the long run. And then, Nate Courier, we may also look at the park there. We may do a little something with the playground equipment earlier there. They can't use the playground equipment right now. We know that as part of the wastewater project, with the well that's gonna be located behind the Nate Courier, that playground equipment has to come out anyways. We may just push that up on the list a little bit and get it out of there a little bit sooner. Long discussion about Katyville Beach and what we're gonna do with that. I think the general consensus right now, because of social distancing, et cetera, in the small footprint of that particular area, it's probably gonna be best if we don't open the beach this year. There may be some further discussion with that, Meg, I think you might agree, we might have discussed a little bit further, but I think consensus is that would be a challenge at best, to open that up this year. Parking lot would remain open, boating access, et cetera, still would be available. As far as programs, again, we went over the detailed plan with Mel and Aaron. I think everybody realizes baseball, softball, t-ball has all been canceled. We had quite a few discussions. There's probably a handful of programs that can still go forward. We really felt that Mel and Aaron would get the kayaking trips, the adult trips. The one thing that we feel wouldn't be best there is in the past, we traditionally have rented kayaks. The town has kayaks that can be rented. We felt it best that we get out of that portion of it, at least for this year, because of concerns about making sure they're sanitized, the equipment being sanitized, et cetera. So anybody that went on one of those kayak trips would have to bring their own equipment. Same with youth kayaking, they would have to bring their own equipment at that point. There's a mountain bike camp that we felt, you'd be able to do that fine with social distancing, et cetera, along with the disc golf and the foot golf. Foot golf, for those that aren't aware of it, that would be the little Twin Pines course in Katyville on 374. Basically what that is football with a soccer ball. But each one of the participants brings their own ball that wouldn't be touching anybody else's equipment or anything. So again, we felt that would be good. Possibility maybe with archery, we're 100% sure there. Possibility that the tent instructional programs could go forward, and same with fishing. Some of the other programs like fun runs, there's no way, there's way too many people that would be involved with that. Kids cook up would take place in the building, can't do that. And there's several others that kind of fall in that category where there would be a group together in a building or on a table outside the building, something of that nature that we just didn't feel we'd be able to maintain proper social distancing. And Fitness for Life program that Aaron typically runs at May Courier, they're looking at, and they've reached out to some of the participants, maybe we'll move that outside and actually hold it on the lawn outside of the building, without having to go in the building again, to keep good social distancing there. So do you think that covered it, Mike?
Yeah, they're still things up in the air, like you said, the beach. Things change so fast, it seems like, that it's hard to make a determination right now about all of these, but this is where we are right now, where Mel really is right now. She brought all of this to us.
Megan, I've got a question. These decisions that have been made, are these, how do they stack up with, say, other towns? And is there any overall guidance from the state on, say, not using playgrounds, or is this something that Mel has basically done on her own?
No, playgrounds has been guidance that came from the state.
Correct, and
Mel's worked in conjunction with the county health department also. And she's also accessed many of the group type sites. There is a disc golf association, there is a tennis group that she's been become involved with to work through best practices. Something like tennis, if we open them back up with the nets back up, it's gonna be 2 people only. So you wouldn't be able to play doubles tennis, it would be single.
How would that be monitored? Would we just have a sign?
She would have signs, and then Aaron and Val are gonna, perform
Monitor, we'll monitor.
trips through the park, yeah. And I think we'd have to work with the buildings and grounds folks too, and make sure that they're understanding, because obviously they're out in the parks every day, but they would have to have a good understanding also.
And now they put together a package for signage that we could use to relay all of this information.
Chuck, I just, the one that I wanted to touch on, because I don't know who brought it up over the last couple of days as things were been, shooting around, and I think it's worthwhile. For the social distance portion of it, it's not just the traditional social distance that's a concern, is we have lifeguards who are, their primary responsibility is to watch people in the water, not watch people on the beach, social distancing, so it adds another complexity. Even the bathrooms in the parks, I mean, there's a number of things there, and the hiring season is upon us, so there are some, a number of these decisions that will need to be made, and I would recommend that, we make final determination on a slate of these by next Thursday. Hopefully, we'll get some more guidance from the state, because remember that phasing, it'll be interesting to see how the state defines, activities and recreation, so.
And Jim, you asked, who made these decisions, or what were these decisions based upon? Throughout our committee meeting, we just kept saying, we can't really make these decisions just in the committee. We need to talk to the whole board about it and pay attention to what's happening statewide and regional.
Okay, good.
And I agree with Michael, and I did discuss the lifeguard situation. We discussed that at length, and the point that Michael brought up probably is my biggest concern, that we put a couple guards there. Their responsibility over the years has been to be closer in water safe.
Exactly.
But now to add on top of that, social distancing and the interactions that they have there, I just think it's too much to ask that lifeguard to do both. Not would, we've never really had situations, but I know the situation, it was last year, where the lifeguard had to do their lifeguard stuff. And I just think it's an awful lot of responsibility to be responsible for the folks in the water. Let's try to keep track of everything that's going on behind
You don't want a distracted lifeguard, for sure.
No.
So again, we'll drill this down, and I want to thank Meg and Chuck for recreation is one of the more active committees, and thank Mel and Aaron for all their due diligence. Recreation as we know it is going to be continuously evolving. It's a matter of fact, that's not a bad thing. There may be some new opportunities to evaluate and create new partnerships with the adjoining municipalities and throughout the region. And Mel and Aaron both have, fantastic organizational skills and research skills to find some of those best practices. But as a board, we have that responsibility as the policymakers to vet them and make sure that we're kind of comfortable with the general direction. And a friend of mine who's a teacher gave me some advice recently. We were talking it, and he said, you never crack a smile until Christmas break. And the kind of the joke is there that it's easier to start conservative than it is to be the fun-loving, overabundant person at the beginning, because there can be mass confusion if you say, oh, well, we're doing this and then we're not doing it. We're doing this and we're not doing it. So we want to be purposeful, and I'm confident that we'll do that. But because things are so are evolving, you know, some of that may happen naturally. But let's do it with very purposeful. And I think Mel and Aaron have done a fantastic job getting us prepped for that. So.
And Michael, I apologize. One of the things that we put forth and one of the suggestions we made, and I'm pretty certain that Mel and Aaron are going to work with it, is we suggested a committee, a recreation committee. I mean, at one time, I know there used to be youth committee, youth commission, whatever the organization's name was, but we felt it important to put together a committee because the landscape of recreation, as we know it, is going to change, it has to change. And really, we think it important to have a committee to bring some folks together and help us determine what that's going to look like down the road, what it's going to look like 6 months from now, what it's going to look like a year from now. We may have a series of these programs that we can't facilitate going forward. What do we fill that in with? Go with. So, and I did talk to Mel about that yesterday, and they are going to get that going and make sure that we have some input from the community, what recreation needs to look like going forward.
Sure.
How about some board games? Do those by Zoom, or, we could, get together at social distancing levels,
Game nights at Tom Wood's house.
The yard.
In the yard. I just want to say, and we've said it a number of times, and our recreation program is a point of pride for the township. I mean, we've all commented a number of times when there's an end of a sports season, when the kids and their families and the coaches come, at how that is almost the highlight of the evening, right? To see these folks engaged. We will continue to find a means for that to continue. It may just look different and feel different, but I'm confident that Mel and Aaron and the town will lead the way. Recreation is as much of a community value as anything else, and we always talk about the town as a great place to live, work, play, and also invest. And now it's time to.
We're not doing any of that now.
Right, and Debbie, and you're absolutely correct. But we also have a legacy, I would argue, of planning. We plan, and we can produce good plans to meet the needs and the demands and the challenges of our times. We can't do it in a vacuum. It shouldn't be done just by the board. We need to engage the people that are using the services, want to use the service. We may think of new types of recreation that are not currently being done. And we're not the only municipality in the region that is facing this. So there should be some comfort that new opportunities might be on the horizon because of these challenges as well. So.
Yeah, the conversations with our neighbors are imperative.
Yep.
As we go forward.
Yep.
And I think we just need to figure out what the makeup of this committee is, and are we using the volunteer application there, which I would think we should.
I would encourage it.
Should, and also, my assumption would be, in that committee status, they're gonna need to probably complete some of the sexual harassment training, et cetera, I would think. So, those are a couple of things that Mel was kind of wondering about, so maybe if we could research that just a little bit, just to make sure we have the right answers for her there.
Yeah, Chuck and Meg,
Would you be putting something in the newspaper or something that you're looking for people who are interested in this kind of committee?
yeah, I think we could cast the net, pun intended, for a number of things. But like our finance board, and our other committees, we have kind of a charge. So I think what we need to do is to develop a scope of work for people, because I think a lot of people, when you say, oh, will you volunteer for things, people either say yes and then they don't engage because they don't feel valued, or they may say no because they don't really know what they're volunteering for. So I think we have to give them a scope of what the expectation is, and we can really bullet out, okay, you will have to do the sexual harassment training, you'll have to do, X number of meetings, per year, whatever those items are. And I think between the council members and Mel and Erin, you folks can come up with that scope and propose it to the large group, and we can, modify it as it's necessary and adopt it like we have with other ones.
I'd still like to see, I think all of us want a list of just the open committee and board positions.
Deborah, I can tell you confidently that Deborah has been working on that with Trevor and others, because there was some confusion. You will have it by next week. Hell or high water come. So that's been a task of pains. Oh, hell or high water? Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Anything else on this topic? Thank you for the highlight. We'll be doing more of this. Sometimes when you have challenges, it's also a time to take a pause and, reevaluate just kind of how we get information to one another. So, all right. I'm going to try this. Barb, I don't know if it's going to work, like I said, because that other item wouldn't share.
Okay, I hear you.
Let me try.
A for effort.
Yep, that part of it is not sharing, just like the other
Okay.
one. I apologize. We'll try it again.
Come on.
So with this, I would like to, a motion to go into an executive session to discuss the specific work history of five specific individuals. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Hebert. Is there a second?
Second.
LaFave. All right, time is 6:36. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Bye.
All right, bye Debbie. Bye Mel.
I gotta figure out how to turn this bloody thing off.
I might be able to remove you.
Remove me, remove me.
No.
Wipe me out, go ahead. What an outcome.
Yep, and I'm gonna give, ask Kevin to shut the other one off. Let's see. How many participants are showing up on your thing down below?
6.
Okay, let me just.